I'm focused on this theory cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about some controversy surrounding Stranger Things. I mean, I've heard people talk about Stranger Things from the left, and they're upset basically because the actor who plays Will is Jewish, and people apparently don't like Jews, but they try to say no, it's Israel. Okay, why are you so upset about other people who are Jewish then? And anyway, even people who do want to defend, like, I don't know, Israel, like people being mad about Gal Gadot showing the October the 7th footage, and why she's actually from Israel and served in the IDF, and if she wants to show a video that is compiled from videos that terrorists made and security footage and so on, why would it be so, why would that be such a bad thing? Like, what would make her evil? Just really crazy, obviously anti-Semitic stuff. But there was some kind of a pop star who said that Will was hot, which is strange enough. But she received backlash, and then she had to apologize for that. She didn't have to apologize, but she did. So no matter what you do on the left, you really can't be woke enough, because people are so upset about the show and this character, and they put all this gay stuff in Stranger Things. It's like nothing will ever appease these people. There's always gonna be something to complain about. Also, there's another crash that apparently happened that from an illegal alien, or someone who had entered illegally or has a CPL that's foreign. And this is like the third time something like that has happened. And the last time that it happened, when I heard the story, like the headline, I just kind of blazed past it because I assumed it was a repeating of the old story the last time. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's another one. So there's another story that's out, and we got to ask, like, what the heck is going on here? I had shared a story that I had heard this weekend, but it happened like a week ago, of a woman who was hit by a truck driver who couldn't speak a lick of English, and had actually their truck was supposed to be out of commission because they couldn't speak a lick of English, so they shouldn't have a CPL, but they were back on the road and actually hit her. And I'm glad she's okay, and there weren't any casualties, but they totally tried to flee the scene, which I can play that video too. But this is dangerous. Like, people operating these big trucks, like, how is this happening? But I don't know if that person was issued out of California, but this story that's popping off today is out of California. And also, there's a big controversy with Pete Hegseth, and there was a strike that happened where they're saying that they struck a drug boat, and then they did another strike that ruthlessly killed people that were basically out of commission, and they broke the Geneva Convention and things like that. And there was a reporting in the Washington Post, but there was some reporting follow-up stuff from the New York Times that seemed to debunk that story, but the Democrats don't care. They're running with what they want to run with. And some fascinating things going on. So before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys with blacknews.com. Check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website, because it does cost a stream. On my side, all that, so you guys get support. Very much to appreciate you guys. Kit Kat, hello. I haven't seen you in a minute in the comments. Hello on YouTube. I know if you're watching on Facebook and if you're watching on YouTube, you guys can't see each other. I could see you. I could see your comments and so on. So thank you guys for watching across the different platforms. There's also some Twitch people. Well, I do stream on Twitch. I don't show enough love to my Twitch at all. I don't log in there. You pop on when I go live, and I'll see people pop in every so often. But maybe my third one should be kind of streamed elsewhere. I don't know. If I could stream directly to Rumble, I would do that, but I don't think you can do that. Well, I didn't have enough followers on Rumble, and you're like, you don't have enough followers on Rumble to go live? No, because I don't like post on there. So, I think yeah, I think you need at least 100. I don't post on my Rumble, and I guess I could, but um, then I would probably just stream directly to Rumble. Um, Kit Kat says, "Oh, been watching later." Okay, well, I appreciate you watching when you can watch, but yeah, I haven't seen you in a minute, girl. So I just want to say hello. I just wanted to say hello. Anyway, you guys can again check out different merchants at the website. You guys can also check out my different books that I've written, including my book Bigger. There's a link in the description. I'll take you to where you guys can pick this up and get a signed copy of them in hardcover. And I also have them in paperback. Holiday season, I know you guys got some little ones that you know or somebody knows, nieces and nephews and grandkids and all that stuff. If you guys want to get the book, go ahead and pick up the book. So that made me think. On Sunday I was telling my nephew, I'm like, if you want to like sell some books at school and start like a little business selling books, I'm like, I could give you a commission. And he's like, well, how much will the commission be? Like 10%. And I'm like, a lot of people on TikTok are like 5 to 8%, they don't. I'm like, 10 seems kind of high, like that's like tithe money. He's like, but I only get, this amount of dollars. I'm like, because they don't cost $200. Like you got to sell a lot, and the money adds up. Like that's how it works when you sell product. But I don't know. Maybe you get 10. But he's like, well, the people I know, they're the book is younger than them. I'm like, well, you can sell some super kid books. So we'll work it out. We'll work it out. Anyway, I'm still posting videos about my Israel trip. I did post the day one. I totally left out something that was important though, because when I filed everything into different days for my pictures and videos, and I don't have any pictures and videos of when I went to go talk to the IDF spokesperson, which was really fascinating. So I have to make a separate video. I'm probably going to film. Actually, I filmed one last night that I was going to edit today and post it today, this afternoon. But I was kind of tired when I filmed it, and I didn't feel like it was the best. So I'm probably gonna film it like right after I get done talking to you guys, and it'll be like a short kind of segment, not too long, just kind of explain what happened, because it was fascinating talking to the IDF, and my opinions on some things were very illuminated about Israel and their PR, and like Charlie Kirk wrote a letter to Bibi Netanyahu about their PR and why basically it sucks. It's like, I love you guys, but your PR sucks and you have to do better for yourselves, or you're going to, have all the support that's basically gone in the US because you have all these young people who don't, um, see the value in supporting Israel and standing by Israel. And people who do stand by you have to do all this digging to find out information on stuff that should be readily available to us. And you guys got to do a better job of sticking up for yourself. But they seem kind of naive about us, where some of the evil was coming from, at least on our side of, the world. So I got to at least express that to the IDF, and I hope it's something that they keep in mind going forward. I mean, we talked to one person about it, but hopefully that's something that, they take to heart. But they also, talked about what happened on October the 7th and filled in, some information gaps and clarified some things. So it's definitely an interesting time. I wish I had included it in the original video, but I'll just have to add like another video and then get in my day 2 stuff. I did think it happened on a different day. I didn't forget that it happened. I just thought it was on a different day. And so I finally asked them, I'm like, what day did we do that? And they're like, the first day when we landed. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I just thought it was like packed into, I guess honestly, I guess maybe I thought it happened maybe on day 2, because we did a lot of because we did stuff surrounding October the 7th. We went to the kibbutz and we went to the Nova Festival, and I just thought maybe we also maybe did it that day too, but it was apparently the first day, so I missed it. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to my commentary. So anyway, let's start off talking about Stranger Things. So Stranger Things, it's funny, it came out a long time ago. When exactly did Stranger Things come out? When did 2016? July 2016. So that was like hot in the the presidential election before Trump had ever won the office is when Stranger Things came out. Wow. Which when you look at some of these kids who are definitely not kids, um you know that's to be the case. And so last season they did something I wasn't crazy about. Will came out. Well, I guess it became apparent that Will is in love with his friend Mike and that he's gay. And Will Mike is in love with 11, who's the girl who likes the waffles, but that's a way back like season 1 thing. Who has the superpowers. And there was a scene last season where Mike said some like comforting things where he's really kind of expressing his feelings without expressing his feelings, and Mike doesn't get it, and he turns to the window and just starts crying, and I think the gay storyline in Stranger Things is like one of the worst things going on. I think Maya Hawke's character, who's a lesbian, I don't enjoy her too much, or particularly her love life. Um, and it just kind of drags. But like, there's a scene, if you watch the new season, I know I won't spoil too much, but where let's just say Maya delivers a speech to Will that because he knows that she's a lesbian, and this is the 80s, so it's not as fashionable as it is today. And he has it come out, but she notices that he likes Mike. And so she gives him a little speech that's supposed to be about self-empowerment and self-love and not being afraid and so on. That's kind of inspired by knowing that he's gay but hasn't come out. And within that speech, when he thinks back to that speech, we'll just say it empowers him, right? And so people are making parody videos like he's using the power of gayness to do different things. So it came out on Thanksgiving. A ton of people watched it. Um, I heard that it crashed like Netflix a little bit. There was at one point we started watching it where it did crash and we had to put it back on, and then it was fine. But when it happened, I'm like, oh, there's probably like so many people watching this right now. And I mean, Stranger Things was one of the shows that made Netflix what it was. Also, what was a House of Cards? Orange is the New Black. Those are like their premier top shows. That was the beginning of Netflix streaming and doing their own stuff. So anyway, people had been calling before to boycott Stranger Things, and not because of Will being gay. And maybe there were people on the right or in conservative circles or Christian circles who were advocating for that. I didn't see too much of that. But there were people on the left who wanted it boycotted because the actor who plays Will is Jewish. And they're like, he's a Zionist. Now, I haven't caught him saying too many political things like that. But I do have to remind everyone, I suppose often now, that Zionism simply means that you believe that Israel has a right to exist. And if you're not a Zionist, I think the burden is on you to explain why you don't think Israel has the right to exist. It doesn't mean a bunch of theological stuff, though there are Christian Zionists that, believe a bunch of theological stuff. It doesn't mean that you agree with Bibi. It doesn't mean that you even agree with the war that happened. It just means that you believe that Israel has a right to exist. And if you say Zionist with foaming at the mouth, hatred, something is wrong with you. On top of your ignorance and stuff. And it it just means you believe that Israel has a right to exist. And frankly, after October the 7th, I think it makes more sense to be a Zionist now than it ever has, maybe, but I don't know if before, but it should be there should be a greater revelation of why it's important to actually be a Zionist and believe in Zionism. So because there's a lot of places where they're apparently not safe around the world, especially with people chanting globalize the intifada everywhere, and Jewish people being attacked in the street, um hunted down at airports, or you know assaulted, set on protesters set on fire. It's just unfortunately dangerous, them being not harassed on college campuses in the United States of America, and not properly protected, where the president has to sue different administrations, like within college campuses, to actually protect their Jewish students. It shouldn't be like that. It really shouldn't. So one way or another, the safest place, I don't want to the say not the safest place, but like it makes sense why a lot of people feel like, I need to go to where there's a Jewish homeland, a place where I'm not going to be exiled, and something, if stuff hits the fan, you know. And to me, Zionism makes a lot of sense, because, like, okay, if the rest of the world isn't going to fight for you, you at least need a place that's going to fight for you in your life and your existence. Even the United States of America, like, one thing that really bothered me, especially about so-called America First people, who kept talking about Israel and the war and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, well, they did kill Americans, and they did kidnap them and take them into terror tunnels and all that stuff. So if you don't care about those people, what's up with that? Like, is that America First? And if you're not doing your darndest to bring them home, just because they are maybe Jewish, I guess, too, or were taken in Israel, um then and if it's just incumbent upon Israel to get those people back, then yeah, it's really important that the Jewish state exist as a Jewish state. There's plenty of other, is it 57 Muslim countries around the world, or Arab countries. Like, there can be one Jewish country, you know. I don't think that's a crazy ask. So anyway, makes sense for people to be Zionist. um but this is just a young actor, you know, a part of the show Stranger Things. So there was a girl in some kind of pop group based out of, I think, LA or something. I'm not aware of it. I just saw that Pop Crave did a tweet about it, and I looked it up a little bit. So the group called Cat's Eye, and so one of the girls in the group called Laura, or named Laura, not called Laura, but named Laura, I suppose, um, had said that Will was hot. So that's odd enough, okay. Um, and then people started to attack her because she said something positive about Will. And again, Will's character, I mean, Will's actor is Jewish. And so she's like, "Oh, heck no, guys. I am just a fan of the show. I was not aware about any of the actors' backgrounds or stances. I was not sharing support for anything but the show. Do not get it twisted. Thank you." Um, let me see if there's more. Yeah, that's it. That's the message. So why attack her because she said Will was hot? Again, I think that's a little odd, because he's definitely likes the other persuasion. His actor is also gay in real life too. But why attack her? Why attack her? Why be mad at him for existing? and being Jewish. Why? Why? And we know a lot of those attacks are coming from the left. And it's just crazy to me. Again, they do these storylines and they introduce Maya, and she's a lesbian. She's got her girlfriend and is making out with her girlfriend in the beginning of the season and stuff, and Will sees her and stuff, and they have conversation. Like, it's a Maya and Will, they befriend each other so she could basically instill him with the power of gay. And it's still like not enough, because there's all these different woke factions, and it just breeds dysfunction. It breeds dysfunction. Again, and he's not the only Jewish cast member. Winona Ryder, which that's not her real name. I think it's Horowitz. Um, if I'm not mistaken, I saw a video the other day with like real. Yeah, Renona Laura Horowitz is her real name. So, a lot of people change their names for stage names and reasons. I don't know if it was, um, you know, all kinds of different reasons. But she's been known to everybody as Renona Ryder, but she's also Jewish as well. So it's like, get over it, guys. Get over it, guys. It's so crazy. It's so crazy to me how people act. Now, I will say this, Jack Posobiec, he tweeted out, this is how I knew that it was out, by the way. He had tweeted out on Thanksgiving, like, I'm just warning everybody, there's a graphic rape scene in Stranger Things 5. And people are like, whoa, whoa. And they're like, Will was raped by Vecna. Vecna is like the main villain. Like, whoa. And so I saw some people like, I like your content, but I'm really not saying what you're seeing. And this is, if you haven't watched the new season, this isn't like a huge spoiler. How it opens up, it's a flashback to when Will was taken, and the monster Vecna is like this psychic demon thing, and he had Will captive, which in the beginning you did know, like when he took him, there was like something on his mouth, but there was something that he was like putting in his mouth. So he meant like a oral kind of rape that made him gay. He thinks is a story that they're pumping into Stranger Things. I think that's a stretch. Um I we could just complain about the storyline as it is. No, I don't think he's like landing all of his lines, you know. I think that there's this really great scene at the end that everybody's talking about, that he's fine in that, but as far as him delivering some of his lines and stuff, I don't feel like him or Maya's like amazing. But that's a different story. Just, you can't please these people. Kick-Ass said, they say it's about the Jews. They say it's not about the Jews, it's about Israel, and then they make it about the Jews. Yeah, it's a lot of times it's really about the Jews. I was going back and forth with someone the other day, and they had this long, they were defending something that Tucker Carlson said, and I'm like, well, remember when everyone was saying we had to bomb Iran? And I'm like, okay, remember when Tucker Carlson said a bunch of crazy things were going to happen because they did and they didn't? And Tucker Carlson was smart enough to know that we weren't going to just be plunged into World War III after this and have economic disaster as a result. He was just saying stuff to gin up like fear and suspicion and outrage, and he was wrong. And if he was that wrong, he was really wrong. Excuse me, why do people still care that much about what he says? And I'm like, you do agree, like Iran is bad, and all this kind of stuff, and it would be a bad thing if they had a bomb. And it got into other like little things, and he mentioned that Israel is paying influencers $7,000. And I'm like, okay, who is being paid $7,000? Can you name them? And can you provide the FARA transactions or reports that prove that these people are being paid? Because I've heard a lot of people accused of being paid. I've been accused a lot of being paid $7,000. And that's just funny for various reasons, including I know my financial needs, and I do not have $7,000 per post from Israel or any of the posts. I haven't been paid at all from Israel. I haven't been paid by any group for my content, So there's that. When I went on this trip to Israel, basically everyone I was with had at one point been accused of paying $7,000 from Israel. Especially Maddie. But there was one girl, Annalie. She was accused by Candace Owens by being paid. I think it was Annalie out of the group who said that, and she wasn't paid by Israel. So why I mentioned Farah, that you can look that up and see, is because if you are being paid by some kind of foreign government or something, you have to register with Farah. That has to be registered. And so then he replies, well, that's the problem because they don't have to register. And so at that point, I know he's talking about APAC. All of the conversations that people are having about APAC. The reason why APAC doesn't have to register with FARA is because it's not the government of Israel who runs it. It is American citizens who run FARA, who raise money for it. They do have an interest in Israeli American relations, but it is Americans who organize that. So they're like, well, it's a problem. They don't have to register. It's just how it works. And then when you tell certain people that, well, why are they the only ones? What if there were other groups or other Iran or other countries that had Americans running groups that don't have to register through FAR? That is the case. There are other organizations like that. But when you only care about APAC, people begin to question, is it really about Israel, or do you just have a problem with the Jews? Or if you don't like ethno states, that's another thing. Well, Israel shouldn't be an ethno state. Then what, do you have a problem with other ethno states? Because Israel's not the only one. So, I think a lot of people, they're trying to hide their anti-Semitic sort of views, how they are unfairly targeting Israel and stuff. Ben Shapiro was asked if he thinks Candace Owens is an anti-Semite, and his response was, I don't think that's helpful. That term is helpful anymore. Because it is overused and people get so defensive about it. But he can just address what people are doing. And you can address what Candace is doing, you can address what Tucker is doing, and you can address what these other people are doing as well. Now, Stop Anti Semitism is a page or website or whatever online. Candace Owens won Anti-Semite of the Year last year, which I think was well deserved. But this year she wasn't nominated again, and people are like, why wasn't Nick Fuentes nominated? They're like, well, we have a lot of his detailed stuff. But they did nominate certain people like Miss Rachel. I mentioned the other day I would like Miss Rachel to win. Because Miss Rachel, and people are like, oh, she's a school teacher. She just loves children and don't want them to die. Well, nobody wants children to die except for Hamas, who hides behind children. So they need to be stopped. But showing all this stuff that's like blood libel to all of your followers or millions of followers and programming them with misinformation so that they hate Israel, and it slows up the progress of Israel winning this war. You're just empowering the terrorists more. Like, you raising funds or whatever to send food over there. Are they getting in the hands of the people, or is Hamas taking that? Are you just making them stronger with your propaganda? But she actually had people that she platformed, was like, "Yay, kids! Today we have," and she'd show some guy who celebrated, October the 7th and loved Yahya Sinwar. And so she ended up deleting that interaction, but that's one of the reasons why she got, she's on the list for anti-Semite of the year, which I get it. I totally understand. And I think she should win. But um does that enrage people, and are they like, "Oh my gosh, they're attacking this children's host. They're so terrible. They're always calling everybody that they can an anti-Semite." Yeah, there's pushback like that for sure. But I think they are trying to raise awareness of what people are saying and the anti-Semitism that's going around, sure. But it is also an email capture game, because when you go to vote, you have to put in your name and you have to put in your email in order to vote. So um there's that. A lot of organizations do stuff like that. Like, when I worked in the Michigan Republican Party, it's like, sign President Trump's birthday card. We wanted your email. It was like a virtual, card or whatever. We wanted your email. That's why we did it. So just, that's why a lot of groups do things like that. FYI, that's how the game is played, you know? So here's a Miss Rachel with this Miss Rachel's a Hamas supporting sellout whose platforms Palestinians that advocate for kidnapping of Israeli children. She is now collaborating with Motaz, a Gazan who praises Hamas and who openly encouraged rape, murder, and kidnapping, including of children, on October the 7th. So that's the video that she did. She did end up taking it down when a lot of people called her out on it. But, you know, whoever did not respond to Sinwar's call to go out and engage in the enemy everywhere has no right to mourn him and boast about the manner of his death. If you love your loyalty were true, you would have followed the same path he followed without any hypocrisy or comfortable lamentation to cover up your failure. Al Sinwar did not want you to write a beautiful obituary or mention his exploits in written poems. He wanted you in the field. Were you in the field? So that's the person that she elevated. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if I put that up on my screen. So sorry. So there's a picture of the tweet, and that's the guy. So she did a video with him, and she ended up taking it down when she got that backlash. But um that's not the only thing she did. She would post propaganda images and stuff that really obviously inflamed people on TikTok and other places and Instagram, um people are just like, "Oh, but she just cares about children being killed." We all care about children being killed, especially including the ones that Hamas are promising to continue to kill in Israel if they are not stopped now. And they will continue using their own people as human shields. They don't care about their children, or they care about them in the sense of that they make good martyrs and they make good human shields. And one thing that was told to me in Israel by a man who was formerly an IDF soldier, but he wasn't currently serving, but he took us around the Golan Heights and stuff. He said, "I can forgive them for killing our children. I can't forgive them for making us kill their children because they hide behind them." So they don't want to kill civilians. And it's really easy to say, we just need to stop, we just need to stop, we just need to stop it. But you need to also win a war with people who want to eradicate you and your children. They, like, Israel had an obligation, a moral obligation to win, to bring their people home and to demoralize and destroy Hamas as much as possible. Especially while they were saying, when we get a chance, we're gonna do it again. It's the easiest thing in the world for me to understand. And I think it's a huge like moral test that a lot of people failed, where it just seemed really basic to me to understand it. That they were engaging in just warfare. So people are upset that Stop Anti-Semitism, nominated her. I get it. I totally get it. I get it. I support it. I'm gonna give it my email. But I would vote for her. Other people that they have on the list, Tucker Carlson. Now Tucker Carlson has been saying some wild stuff, okay? Absolutely wild stuff. The guy Christensen, he has a huge platform on TikTok. Or at least he did. I haven't seen any with content in a while, but he said some wild anti-Semitic, radical, like pro Hamas kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't think I know who Marsha Cross is. I don't think, not off the top of my head. Bryce Mitchell, he's a fighter. He said some stuff. I don't know off the top of my head. Cynthia Nixon, I'm sure, said crazy stuff. Chank, and Anna, you know, they're very anti-Israel. Anna also got in trouble for like doing I'm not gonna do it, but it was like some gestures that mimic some greedy like Jewish caricatures. I'm not gonna do it, but I don't think I know Stu Peters, not off the top of my head. Maybe I do. Or Kyla Walsh. Not sure. Maybe I do. I'd have to, maybe I've seen tweets and other things, but I think there's merit to all of this. But it is, people are questioning like, why is Nick not there? And they had to say, well, we that doesn't mean he's not anti-Semite, and we've chronicled a lot. Actually, they have a tweet below that's addressing it. Let's go ahead and read that, because it is a valid kind of question. For those questioning why Nick Fuentes wasn't on this year's list, we have been monitoring Nick's anti-Semitism since 2019. While he was a finalist a few years back, his absence from this year's cycle does not erase his anti-Semitism. Rather, it allows us to focus attention on other individuals who are spreading hate. We do not recycle candidates from year to year. Okay. So I get that. It's new awareness for what's going on. And that's why Candace Owens isn't on there again. So I get it. Um I get it. Anyway, let's move on. There was a story today about another illegal driver who caused an accident. Fox did a quick segment about it.
An illegal migrant truck driver from India is charged with negligent homicide after allegedly killing two people in a crash in Bend, Oregon last week. ICE has lodged a detainer for his arrest. They say he entered the U.S. illegally and was released back into the country under President Biden, and he obtained a commercial driver's license from California. An illegal.
Yeah, so what's up with California? I know you guys are like, what do you mean what's up with California? It's California. There was a story, it's like the third story like this. The third one. And who knows if it's just the third one. AG said this is the third instance of an illegal immigrant being granted a commercial license to drive a truck by California before causing a deadly crash in the last few months. Back in August, Harjinder Singh killed 3 people while driving a truck in Florida after an illegal U-turn on a highway. He also had a CDL issued by California. In October, another illegal immigrant, Jashpreet Singh, crashed his semi-truck while on drugs on the California highway, killing 3 people. And when I heard of the second story, like I saw the headlines kind of going around, I assumed that was the same story. I'm like, And then later I'm like, oh my God, that's a new story. It happened again. That's crazy. How could it happen again? He said this isn't complicated. States should not be granting commercial licenses to people who lack a legal right to be there. States like California that refuse to check immigration status while issuing such benefits are putting Americans at risk. And these people drive these trucks all over the place. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, I think there was it the highway? Well, I thought maybe that was out of the country when they were on the highway, but the pileups were just insane. That's been going on. So there's a video that I had posted from a truck driver. I don't know how big her account was before this story, but this video blew up. Who saw someone who was hit by someone and they tried to flee, but they couldn't flee from her. They tried to flee like 2-3 times. And they couldn't speak a lick of English. And I just questioned, like, what is going on that these truck drivers are being allowed to do this? Now, I guess we always need new truck drivers, and that's it. I've known some questionable people who's gotten jobs in that industry, but they could drive. But questionable people nonetheless, and they'll still get jobs and probably could still go get those jobs again too, maybe. But they're jobs that they take you on the road a lot, obviously, because you're driving around. But they tend to pay well. They tend to be decently paid, well positions. So I can understand people wanting to do them, certainly. But let me but you shouldn't be allowed to do them.
This is probably the most important video I've probably ever posted here on TikTok when it pertains to the trucking industry. For a long time, a lot of you have been asking what exactly happens to a truck driver when they're placed out of service by DOT for failure to speak or understand English. What exactly happens after that? I now have definitive proof of exactly what happens to a truck driver when they're placed out of service for failing to speak English, meaning their CDL is invalid. As some of you are already aware, this morning I was hit by another truck driver out on the roadway. The truck driver attempted to flee the scene of the accident. I chased him down and he pulled over onto the shoulder behind me, pretending that he was going to stop. But when I came to a stop, he whipped around me and tried to flee the scene of the accident a second time. I continued to follow him, and when he realized he wasn't going to be able to lose me, he finally pulled over onto the shoulder. At that point in time, I confronted the driver and identified immediately that the driver doesn't speak a single word of English and relies solely on translator apps on his phone to communicate. So this is the trucking company's DOT number, 3282075. October 12th, literally last month, a truck driver was placed out of service at this trucking company for not being able to pass the English proficiency test. The license plate to that truck is ZP41982. The license plate of the truck that hit me is ZP41982. 1 month ago, this driver was placed out of service by DOT because they failed to pass an English proficiency test, meaning their CDL was no longer valid until such a time that they could understand and read English. Yet despite that, 1 month later, they cause an accident on the roadway. And as you guys have seen, they are still not proficient in English and could not speak a single English word. I need this video to be shared, not just among truck drivers on social media and various platforms, but it needs to be shared to the news media. It needs to be shared to politicians. How many times have you seen DOT bragging about how many non-domiciled drivers that they've put out of service for failing to pass the English proficiency test, as though they're somehow making the roadways safer? But as you guys can see from the damage to my truck, ultimately it's a publicity stunt at best, because these drivers are climbing right back into their truck after they cause these accidents or get these out of services and continuing to pose hazards on the road. You asked what happens when a driver gets put out of service for failing an English test. The answer is they continue to drive that truck until they take somebody's life.
Yeah, that should not be going on. That absolutely should not be going on. We got to do better for, I mean, just, it's a lot of work driving those big trucks anyway. And you don't know how to do that, and you don't know English enough to be knowing the signs. Maybe you don't know all the rules of the road appropriately, and all kinds of different stuff could be going on. There's so many people out here who don't know a lick of English that are doing so many jobs on the road. Because I guess maybe it's kind of a good way to make fast money. I don't know why it should be, why someone would be able to get a truck like that or license to do that if they can't speak a lick of English, you know. And if someone came over here illegally, and I don't know the status of that person from the video that we just watched, but we know that there's these other 3 stories that people have been killed over. They came over illegally. They should not have those kinds of jobs. But even like something like DoorDash, there's people who come over and they do all this door dashing stuff, and there's so many restaurants that are like, these people come in and they can't speak any English, and they're also using translator apps, and they like, can you come in and like DoorDash, and then if there's some kind of issue that you have with your order, you have to call your customers, because you might have something that's out, and then the person who's behind the counter has to talk to them because they can't talk to them and relay the message, and so on. So that, delays orders that they have for customers that are inside the store, or other DoorDash drivers, or people might be in the drive-through. It just causes confusion. That, like, I know sometimes people get sensitive when you're like, people need to learn English, but people do need to learn English. People do need to learn English, but people, and then there's so many people who do that gig work stuff who need that fast cash for Christmas or other stuff like that. And it's just clogged up with so many people who, again, can't proficiently use the English language. So it's crazy. And then they get into other work too. Like, my sister knew somebody who was doing like DoorDash and things like that. And they usually have like like landscaping businesses and things like that, but there's so many illegals who come over and do work, and they undercut, as far as the prices and stuff, that these other folks can't get, the type of business that they usually would get. And so they have to supplement their income in other ways, and so then they're taking up the income in that kind of way too. So it's just a messed up cycle. It's just a messed up cycle, and I hope we fix it soon. Unfortunately, I don't know how much it's going to be fixed soon. I was watching Ben Shapiro show earlier today, and I don't know, there's this rift in the Democrat Party. You have like really radical people, like, of course, Zoran Mamdani, who have gotten this big like push, and obviously just won the mayor of New York City, which is insane. But you also have people who are trying to present themselves as more moderate, like Kelly in Arizona, who won for like special election, and he has like a full term that he's going to serve out. But he's a part of the group, like we talked about Alyssa Slotkin the other day, who've been saying, oh, don't follow illegal orders. And so they put out that video, and people are like, what the heck? Like, Trump got into some like hot water because he's like, they're encouraging treason, which is punishable by death. And they're like, what the heck? Like, he's out here threatening people? Like, it wasn't like he shouldn't have bothered saying that. But anyway, they're out there saying don't do illegal orders. And then they're confronted, and they're like, well, he hasn't issued illegal orders, but if you think they're illegal orders, don't do them. And sort of bending like, because, eventually we're going to get back in power. And if you do illegal orders, then we're going to get you. So it just creates this confusion and undermines the presidency. And it's so terrible. It's so annoying that there's people who want to do this to undermine the power of the presidency just because they don't like the current president. But then they one day probably hope to become president. Like, Kelly, like Kelly's going out there and he's, trying to do all this stuff, and he's probably trying to rise in the field as like, hey, I'm this military guy, I'm a moderate. I'm not like these crazy people, even though he votes, with the party all the time. He's not like Kristen Sinema. And he's trying to set himself as a figure that could perhaps be the presidential nominee. I warned you all yesterday. I think Alyssa Slotkin is being positioned to be someone who could be a contender for presidential nominee. Now there's still like left-wing people like AOC who's going to be positioned to be like the nominee. I think she did a video where she had her staff or campaign or whatever had raised a bunch of funds to get turkeys for people. And so she talked about how many turkeys they were feeding people. And folks are like, oh, she's really making moves to try to be the president. She's going to run. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want her to run. I certainly don't want Democrats to vote for her. I certainly don't want her to be anywhere close to any sort of higher office. I don't want her to be in the office that she has now. But I'm like, at least that's smart. Because I've always said, like, people who are like, we need healthcare this, we need this student loans, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, people raise all of this money for these campaigns. What if they actually just tried to, because they have all these eyeballs on them, why don't, while they're running for office, instead of paying like astronomical inflated prices for so many things, including all these consultants that are just sucking them dry, why don't you put some of that money toward these constituents? Like, why don't you say, okay, there's going to be all this money that's coming to my campaign, or we're going to find a way to raise, or instead of raising the money for me, like, you guys, if you can go knock doors, I appreciate it. If you can make phone calls, I appreciate it. But we're going to use this like political capital right now and these eyeballs on me right now to try to raise money for people to go to college. We're going to use all these eyeballs on me right now to try to raise money to pay for people's medical bills. So her going out there saying we're raising money and we're going to feed people and we're giving them turkeys for Thanksgiving. I can appreciate the game. I can appreciate the game. If it is a game, we have to leave room for her. She just wants to do a nice thing, because people who you don't like can still choose to do nice things, especially with the political power that they have and the voice that they have. That's always an option too. Now, does she do political stunts and have done political stunts all the time? Yes, but I can appreciate if she's doing it for nice reasons, and I can understand, and game can recognize game, I guess, if she's just doing it for political capital, because she got some more. And I just wonder why more politicians don't do that. I wonder why more politicians don't do that. So there's going to be a bench, and you're going to have more radical people. AOC has been, she's still like radical and left wing and all that stuff too. Is she? And stuff she said about Charlie Kirk after he passed on the floor was just crazy and stupid and gross. So she's still a terrible person, but she doesn't come out there as obviously terrible as some other folks, or how radical and crazy that she's been in the past either. So she's tried to not modernize herself, make herself more mainstream, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So you have the Mark Kelly kind of crowd, Alyssa Slotkin crowd, and the AOCs and Mom Donnie kind of folks, and it's like, who's going to win? Well, the theory is that Mark Kelly and Alyssa Slotkin, like, they're trying to put themselves up as like experienced military people, and Trump and them, they're just too dangerous. Pete Hegseth's too dangerous. And there was a story from the Washington Post making the claims that there are these kill orders because they've been doing these strikes on these drug boats, and they're like, nope, these are designated terrorists, they're coming in our waters, they're trying to poison our people, we're not going to let them do that, if they have these drug boats, we're going to blow them sky high. So the Washington Post made all kinds of claims, that there was they blew them up. And then there was, people who survived. And then Pete Hegseth ordered a second strike to make sure these people were dead, when they didn't pose that kind of a big of a threat anymore. And this is against the Geneva Conventions, and those were illegal orders. So they're using, you had these Democrats were like, they're issuing illegal orders, didn't have any evidence of illegal orders. And all of a sudden there's this New York Post story. Now the New York Times came out with a following article that push back against that. They're like, according to 5 U.S. officials who spoke separately on the condition of anonymity to discuss a sensitive matter that is under investigation, which people should obviously wait to investigation. Mr. Hegseth, ahead of September 2nd attack, ordered a strike that would kill the people on the boat and destroy the vessel and its purported cargo of drugs. But each individual said Mr. Hegseth's directive did not specifically address what should happen if the first missile turned out not to fully accomplish all of those things. And the official said his order was not a response to surveillance footage showing that at least 2 people on the boat survived the first blast. So it's not like he was watching on some kind of big monitor TV and was like, hey, they survived. Send the second missile to take him down. That's not what happened. Okay. Admiral Bradley ordered the initial missile strike and then several follow-up strikes that killed the initial survivors and sank the disabled boat. And that operation unfolded, they said. Mr. Hegseth did not give any further orders to him. The 2 officials questioned whether the surviving people were Admiral Bradley's intended target in the second strike, as opposed to the purported drugs and the disabled vessel. They argued that the purported cargo remained a threat and a lawful military target because another cartel-associated boat might have come to retrieve it. And so if that's the case, and they were going after the cargo and not like, oh, there's one in the water, let me make sure I get that drug lord right there, then it's not really what they're arguing and trying to make it out to be in the Washington Post. And Hakeem Jeffries and all these Democrats are going at it. I so do not want Hakeem Jeffries to be the majority leader. Oh gosh. He's the worst. I don't want, well, I guess it could get worse, but he's pretty bad. I don't want him to be the leader, but they got to figure that out. They have got to try to pull it together for the midterms, which there's a special election going on in Tennessee right now. And it should be like a Republicans win it easily, but because it's like a plus, I don't know, it might be a plus 11 that Trump won it by, and it's like within 2 points of the Democrat winning, and it's a crazy Democrat. It's funny because people like Mark Cernovich was like, how come Daily Wire is not talking more about it? It's like a front news page story on Daily Wire, and I heard Ben Shapiro talk about it today. I heard Ben Shapiro mention it yesterday, and I'm pretty sure I've heard him mention it other times before. So people are definitely talking about it, and why are Republicans not getting out the vote is a question. They're just kind of sitting and resting on their laurels or whatever. But your country, I know Elon Musk was like, this election is the most important election. We save civilization. You have to keep preserving your civilization, your town, your community, your state, the country. You have to keep voting. You have to stay engaged. That's just how it is. You're an adult. Go out and vote. Go out and vote. In a lot of places, you can mail in your vote. You can vote early, get a ride, do what you have to. Especially when you can make the difference. I mean, some people think like, oh, it's not a big deal. So a lot of other people could do it. I don't have to do it or whatever, But with the people out of power, like the Democrats, they're engaged, they're enthusiastic, they're angry. They go out there and they vote, and the lackadaisical people lose, and they are like, oh my gosh. And then you have all these pundits that are like, aha, everyone hates Trump. Everybody hates what the Republicans are doing because Republicans failed. It's because a lot of the stuff is people being lackadaisical and resting on their laurels. So go out there and go win. Pete Hegseth was asked about a couple of these things. Let's go ahead and watch some of these clips before I let you go.
We're proud to do. So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike? I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded in fire and smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press don't understand. You sit in your air-conditioned offices or up on Capitol Hill and you make stories The Washington Post about kill everybody, phrases on anonymous sources, not based in anything, not based in any truth at all. And then you want to throw out really irresponsible terms about American heroes, about the judgment that they made. I wrote a whole book on this topic because of what politicians and the press does to warfighters. President Trump was proud to do it. So you didn't.
So I think the caption is like, oh, he just totally told them off. I think we exaggerate a little too much in our captions, but he did address them. Trump
administration says it did not break any laws after carrying out an airstrike on a boat 3 months ago today. The strike was notable, though, because it was multiple shots that were fired by the people who appeared to have survived the first strike. And now Democrats say they need to know if war crimes were committed.
The question in front of us, and I believe there will be bipartisan investigations in both the House and in the Senate in order to determine whether war crimes were committed and either U.S. law or international law or both were violated.
The White House is denying that any international law was broken. They are also saying that Secretary Hegseth did not give that second order to kill those people that had survived that strike. Instead, it was an admiral who carried out that attack. We'll be interested to see if Secretary Hegseth has anything to say with it. Bill, as you know, he's usually seated right next to the president.
Yeah, and the New York Times investigated that, and they said that it was about them continuing to destroy the cargo. And who'd be like, they're still there, shoot the second missile. It just seems like a lot. It's also, we are having a conversation about like drug warlords, and it is interesting. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be concerned or you should investigate these things. The international law is important, and how you conduct warfare is important, especially when you're deciding to kill people and there isn't like a trial, you don't arrest them or whatever. It's just like, they're designated as terrorists and you're doing like conducting like basically warfare, right? I just recall, and you could say this is a whataboutism if you want to go ahead and do that, but remember when Biden blew up those kids in Afghanistan after the exit, they're like, oh, well, the strike was true. And there's a secondary explosion. There was no secondary explosion. And there were some water canisters, that someone brought in for their family, for the kids in the village or whatever. And they killed an aid worker and some kids. So there wasn't any like arrest or anything like that. People weren't like, those were illegal orders. People, nobody even got fired for what happened in Afghanistan. So people should do what's legal and right and moral. And I'm personally okay with blowing up drug lords and keeping that crap out of our country. I want people to make sure that it is drugs that they're blowing up and not like, I don't know, family on vacation or something like that. But it is very strange. Like, I just wish there was that kind of outrage from Kelly when Biden blew up some kids over some water. So, that's, you can call that a whataboutism if you want, but that's how I feel. That's how I feel. Still saying that things should be properly investigated, because if they did do something wrong and they're absolutely lying about it, I think Pete should get busted for that. If you made some kind of mistake, I don't know, you can own up to it because you're gonna get a pardon, bro. So, I don't want people to perpetually be lying about this crap if they made some kind of error in judgment or broke some laws. Like, I want them to fess up to it, and I'm sure he would get a pardon. He's Trump's boy, right? So just fess up. And I don't want to go down this road of you seriously can't trust these people and they're lying to cover their butts. So go ahead and investigate it. But again, New York Times did some digging, and it seems like the Washington Post story isn't true. isn't true. Surprise, surprise. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Someone said, did Obama drone what? Yes. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Go to blacktnews.com, check out the different content website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost a stream. From my side, all the good so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merch that's available at my store, like different t-shirts and so on. So go ahead and check out what I got there. I also have different books you guys can check out as well. On the site, I have 19 books that are published, and one of those books, this is the 19th one, bigger. You guys can check this out. There's a link in the description where you guys can pick it up, and I can get you guys a signed copy. So God bless you guys, and I will see you next time.